In 53 BC, under the banner of the Roman Empire, General Marcus Crassus, along with Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus, undertook an ambitious campaign. His goal, the riches of Parthia, hidden beyond the Euphrates. Though 60 years old, but with a fiery spirit, Crassus commands an army of 30,000 Romans. What follows, however, is a historic catastrophe. Right in Caria, Roman power collapses. Crassus's army is routed, he himself killed, and the fate of the surviving soldiers remains a mystery, shrouded in mystery. The 10,000 Roman legionnaires who escaped are captured by the Parthians. History, however, loses them in the shadows of time until 20 BC, when Emperor Augustus demands their return as part of a peace treaty with Parthia. The answer is cryptic. There are no survivors. But is that the end of the story? In 1955, Homer Dubs reawakens this mystery with a hypothesis that leads to China. According to him, extinct Romans founded a city there based on ancient Chinese records from the Han Dynasty. The records describe warriors using Roman battle tactics defending the city of Chizi in Kakistan. Another army disappears among the sands of the Sahara, that of the Persian Emperor Cambyses. In 524 BC, an army of 50,000 men marched to the temple of Amun at Siwa and was lost without a trace. The fate of the 9th Roman Legion in Britannia also remains unclear. Abu Bakr II, ruler of Mali Empire, and his 2,000 ships never returned from a mysterious expedition. These mysterious disappearances have intrigued historians and researchers for centuries. In this video, we go on the trail of the truth behind some of the most massive disappearances in human history. Did they hide something from us? Let's find out. The Lost Legion of Crassus. Marcus Licinius Crassus was one of the wealthiest men in the Roman world and part of the first triumvirate and notables such as Pompeius Magnus and Julius Caesar. By the time of the first triumvirate in 59 BCE, Crassus was in his 60s and hard of hearing, but still craving military glory. As governor of Syria, he could see firsthand that the riches of Parthia over the Euphrates. Taking down this first empire would resolve two of his needs: glory and more money. So in 53 BC, Roman general Marcus Licinius Crassus led an army of 30,000 soldiers into the Parthian Empire in pursuit of wealth and glory. However, what followed was one of the greatest disasters in Roman history. During the Battle of Carrhae, the army was decimated, and Crassus himself was killed in battle. But what happened to the surviving soldiers? The ones who escaped headed back to Italy. However, there were 10,000 legionnaires captured as prisoners by the Parthians. In 20 BCE, Augustus negotiated peace with the Parthians, and as part of the treaty, he requested the prisoners from the Battle of Carrhae. The Parthians claimed there weren't any left. Where did they go? According to historians, Parthian practice was to shift prisoners to the east to defend their border. This theory is upheld by reports by Roman historian Plinius. In that case, they may have accepted their lot in life and fought and died as mercenaries. However, in 1955, Homer Hasselflug Dubs set out a theory that these men survived and founded a city in China. His speech, A Roman City in Ancient China, outlined reports from the Han Dynasty that sounded much like Roman legion. The chronicles found by Dub describe the Chinese army's capture of Mongol city under Qin Tang in 36 BCE, named Jizi in modern-day Kazakhstan. Gizi had a palisade for tree trunks, and the warriors defending the city used a fish scale formation the Chinese had never seen. Their description matches that of a testudo, in which soldiers form a cover of an overlapping shields in front of their bodies in the first row and over the heads of the additional rows. Although they eventually lost the town, the Chinese were so impressed with the defenders they gave them land for another town guarding the border between China and Tibet. They named the place Lijian, which was pronounced Legion. This became known as the village of Liquin in modern times. The missing army of Cambyses. The scorched sands of the Sahara Desert are one of the most inhospitable places in the world, especially when you're traveling through as a marching army with limited supplies. While the ancient Egyptians knew of the dangers of the Sahara, invading forces such as those of the Persian Emperor Cambyses were unaware of how harsh the conditions could be. In 524 BC, Persian Emperor Cambyses supposedly sent an army of 50,000 men to attack and enslave the Ammonians, residents of the Temple of Amun in modern Siwa. Then Herodotus tells us that this entire army vanished after a violent sandstorm. This army was last seen in the island of the Blessed. While we don't know where the specific location was, it was apparently about 7 days from Thebes. We can make a certain educated guess as to the route of this army. So the army was last seen at this blessed location, which could put it somewhere between Karga and Dagla, assuming that it was the route or maybe on the way to Pharafra. We never hear of this disappeared army in any ancient sources, not by the Egyptians, the Persians, or the Greeks. Cambyses' successor, Darius Behistun, inscription, makes no mention of it. The army vanished from memory until the story regained some prominence in the last century. Theories on the army's disappearance range from violent sandstorm to an ambush from Egyptian rebels. However, to this day, no one knows what happened to the Persian army that disappeared in the harsh Sahara Desert. The expedition of Mansa Musa's predecessor. Mansa Musa was the ruler of the West African Empire of Mali during the 14th century. His vast territory was known across Africa and the Middle East for its extensive riches, and he is often considered one of the richest men in history. He would go on to build the great mosque at Timbuktu, but is best remembered for the splendor of his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. However, how he came to rule the vast empire is an interesting story. In 1324, while staying in Cairo during his Hajj, Mansa Musa, the ruler of the Mali Empire, told an Egyptian official whom he had befriended that he had come to rule when his predecessor led a large fleet in an attempt to cross the Atlantic Ocean and never returned. This account, recorded by the Arab historian Allah Amara, has attracted considerable interest and speculation as a possible instance of pre-Columbian Trans-Oceanic contact. According to the legend, Abu Bakr II abducted the Malian throne and embarked on a grand expedition across the Atlantic Ocean. He took 2,000 ships with sailors, builders, artisans, and enough provisions for several years. But Abu Bakr never returned, and Musa claimed the throne. What happened to the previous ruler and his 2,000 ships has intrigued historians and explorers for centuries. Could this really provide us with evidence to suggest that African sailors had reached the New World before Columbus? Abu Bakr's putative voyage is a piece of a bigger puzzle. Historian Van Sertima uses archaeological evidence, eyewitness accounts, oral traditions, and Columbus's logs to support his argument that the voyage happened. According to Columbus, natives of Hispaniola claimed that the black-skinned people from the south, with gold-tipped spears, made contact and traded with them. The metal was called guanine, and it originated in Africa. Spanish explorer Vasco Núñez de Balboa claimed to have seen Native Americans wearing head wraps and handkerchiefs with Guinean patterns. He also claimed to have seen black-skinned people held as prisoners in a Native American village. Another source, Nicholas Leon, also relayed reports of black-skinned people in the Americas. Van Sertima believed ocean currents could have carried boats from Africa to the New World. While this compelling story, there is a simple and sufficient evidence to support this. The reliability of world traditions can be hit or miss. Stories passed down through multiple generations can change over time. Eyewitness accounts fall into the category as well. Many agree that Columbus himself was prone to exaggeration to make his expeditions more exciting and to secure more funding. Mansa Musa could have even told this story simply to entertain his Egyptian hosts. The 9th Roman Legion. The mystery surrounding the disappearance is arguably one of the greatest of the ancient world. The 9th was an elite military unit operating in Britain following the Roman invasion of AD 43. The Legion was instrumental in combating native resistance in northern England and had been on the front line during the revolt of Queen Boudica in AD 60, in which it had suffered heavy losses. In the early AD 70s, the Legion pushed forward to a new base at York, and 10 years later was actively campaigning across the Highlands of Scotland. By AD 100, it was back in northern England, but by the early 120s, it had vanished, its place at York been taken by another legion, the 6th. What ultimately happened to the 9th is one of those great unknowns of history, its disappearance becoming one of the more potent myths surrounding Roman Britain. Even if some academics disagreed, most conceded that the last confirmed sighting of the Legion had been in northern Britain during the early years of the 2nd century. By the AD 160s, when a list of all serving regiments were completed, the 9th had ceased to exist. Their ultimate fate, however, was not recorded. However, most historians have generally accepted that the Legion was wiped out by the Caledonians in Scotland in 122 CE and was stripped of their sacred eagle and standards. Others believe that the Legion was transferred out of Britain only to succumb to a state of annihilation somewhere in the east. Yet the final piece of solid evidence confirming the existence of the 9th Legion comes from Britain, not the Middle East. This evidence was left for us at York in the form of an immense stone inscription that recorded the completion of the building work in the legendary fortress. The inscription significantly lies in the fact that it lists a set of tiles for the Emperor Trajan that can be securely dated to 108 AD. In contrast, evidence for the theory of strategic transfer, the 9th being taken out of Britain rather than dying here, is rather flimsy. It compromises a series of fragmented tiles, pottery sherds, and a bronze pendant, all bearing the distinctive moniker of the 9th found at the Nijmegen in the Netherlands. It had been suggested that these artifacts represent the debris of a legend route from Britannia early in the 2nd century AD. What do you think about these missing armies? Have you ever heard of them before these videos? Do you have any theories about what could have happened to Rome's 9th Legion or the leader of the Mali Empire on his ventures across the sea? Let us know all your thoughts in the comment section. As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more centered on ancient history, hit the subscribe button and join us for weekly uploads.